Unleashing the Wild Witch, Chapter 4, Mason. Steam escaped sideways from the train that rolled into the station. I watched with awe as the movement of the crank and drive rod slowed, the brakes activating with a screech, until the bulky locomotive halted at the platform. Although I was here to investigate the apparition, I just had to check out the magnificent steam engines. New technology just made my heart sing, and I couldn't let an opportunity pass to marvel at it. I took in the shiny green and gold embellishments of the locomotive's exterior. This must be a new one, as its colors were still bright. A waft of strong and sooty-smelling smoke tickled my nostrils, and I could feel the heat from the boiler that was clanking while cooling down. There was a constant hissing sound, and I imagined steam running through various pipes ready to spring into action again when the train departed. I took in the shiny emerald green nameplate on the side. Curly gold letters pronounced its name with flair, the Golden Troubadour. Somehow the green reminded me of Jane's eyes. Since meeting her yesterday, I couldn't get my mind off her. Something about her captivated my attention, and it went deeper than just my interest in her magic. I still had to get to the bottom of that mystery. However, after I saved her from that idiot werewolf, I couldn't bring myself to interrogate her. She had been shaken and vulnerable. However, she pretended to be okay. Somehow, I had to fight the urge to wrap her in my arms and whisk her away to a safe place. Why did I feel so strongly about her? It was probably just because of the mystery she presented. Once my curiosity was satisfied, my interest in her would certainly be over, right? I shook my head. I really should focus on my job right now. Right, the apparition. What did Brandon say? Platform 7? My footsteps echoed as I took the polished marble stairs up and bridged over the tracks until I found Platform 7. It looked just like the other platforms. Elegant black and white mosaic lined the edges alongside the tracks, and wrought iron benches stood in the middle. The whole roof was one big arch, stretching high above all the tracks. Light from the arched roof windows fell on the waiting passengers below, their low murmurs overshadowed by the hissing and chuffing of the steam engines. Just as another train rolled into the station, I heard screams at the far end of the platform. Chaos erupted around me as the mass of waiting people started to push back towards the stairs. As the only one who went in the opposite direction, I was pushed around as I tried to catch a glimpse of what might possibly be going on. Luckily, the doors of the train opened, making a welcome escape route for the panicked crowd, and making it a bit easier to pass through the crowd. In my work as a magical investigator, I had learned that there seldom was a real danger that I couldn't handle. Most of the time, people panicked over nothing, so I proceeded with a cautious curiosity. Several passengers were sobbing, and the acrid smell of fear assaulted my nostrils. I wasn't very fond of crowds, especially because I could feel their nervous energy that floated through the air like sticky strands of spaghetti, attaching itself to everything, including my clothes. Elbowing my way through the mass, I tried to reach the back of the platform. What could possibly cause such chaos? As the crowd finally disappeared into the waiting train, the dust settled and the view to the back cleared. Suddenly, it got quiet, except for some hushed voices and the flapping of wings from the ever-present pigeons. I scanned the far end of the platform, but I could see nothing out of the ordinary, except for a couple of suitcases and bags that were left in the panic. Carefully, I expanded my awareness to envelop the platform and its immediate surroundings, using tendrils of magic to feel around for leftover energy that might indicate something occult had happened. Nothing. No magic, no dark energy, just a normal platform. I noticed the doors at the back of the train were all closed. Perhaps the conductor knew something more? I quickly turned around, right in time to see the conductor board the train and blow his whistle. Some late passengers ran up to the train to board last minute. I had to be quick. I picked up my pace and called out to the conductor. My booted footsteps echoed through the station, and my silver hair flowed backwards in the draft. I reached the conductor just in time. "Hey, what happened back there?" I asked, slightly out of breath, as I pointed to the back of the platform. The conductor's red face turned grave, his thick brows furrowed and his eyes shifted. "Didn't you see it? A ghost it was! I tell you, this platform is cursed!" His slight southern accent was almost comical. He shuddered. "I keep the back doors closed, but the passengers keep going to the far end of the platform, only to rush to the front when the ghost appears." His sandy-colored mustache shook with every word. With a meaty hand, he adjusted his green and grey conductor's cap. "We have a lot of complaints of missing luggage at the moment. I've been filling in lost goods forms for a week now." His red cheeks bulged out as he blew out some air, and he signaled to the driver, who leaned out of the window looking rather impatient. This train was running late, so I decided not to take any more of his time. I thanked him and went on to investigate further. The conductor closed the last door and the locomotive sprang back to life. The train slowly gained speed as I walked back to the end of the platform, passing me by while chucking out steam. And then I noticed it. One of the suitcases was gone. As far as I knew, no one had been on the platform to take the luggage away. I scanned the area for people I might have missed, but the platform was deserted. A thought occurred to me, or maybe one would call it a hunch. I found it oddly strange for a ghost to not leave a trail of dark energy. And why would a ghost need luggage? No, this was something entirely else. My eyes fell on a frayed piece of rope on the ground near one of the benches. Where did that come from? As I picked it up and twisted the loose strands between my fingers, I noticed a rope made of the same material led from a crate up towards the beams that crisscrossed the arched ceiling. Why would the rope go all the way up there? I squinted my eyes as I looked up. Sunlight was filtering through the stained glass windows, blinding me with a kaleidoscope of colors. Shielding my eyes from the sun with my hand, I followed the rope all the way up. Aha! Just as I thought. At the end of the rope there was something that only could be described as a bundle of white rags, loosely resembling a humanoid form. 2 black eyes were painted on a crudely formed head, and a bushel of straw gave the impression of hair. Really? I rolled my eyes. People were so easy to deceive. The whole thing looked like it was made by kids, which led me to suspect something. I slowly turned around to face the crates. "You can come out now. I know you are hiding between those crates." There was no answer. However, I was sure someone was there, as I could sense a small tendril of fear floating through the air. I sighed dramatically and rolled my eyes, getting somewhat annoyed because my time was being wasted. "Come out now, or I'll make you come out." I let my voice carry a threatening undertone, and with a satisfied smirk, I noticed even more fear floated from the crates. As there still was no reaction from the person hiding, I decided my patience was gone. I raised my right hand, collecting a ball of blue energy. As I felt my power rising, I sent out a glowing blue lasso towards the crates. A frightening shriek pierced through the air when the blue energy captured whoever was behind the crates. Even I was surprised when 2 small boys floated towards me, being held captive by my blue rope. By the looks of their tattered clothes and strained faces, these were street boys. They looked at me with frightened big eyes. They were skinny, one slightly larger than the other. The smaller one had freckles and a mop of orange-red curls. The other had red cheeks and short blonde hair. My God, they couldn't be any older than 10. But their faces showed that they were forced to grow up way too quickly. I felt a pang of pity for them, but I kept my face stern. "Explain yourself, young lads, or I might have to turn you into frogs." I inwardly chuckled at their shocked faces. I wasn't really going to turn them into frogs, but I wanted to make sure they would not mess with me. "Please, sir, let us go. We promise we won't do it again." They wriggled as I slowly put them down in front of me, the lasso still holding them tight. "We were just trying to get some food, sir. A lot of passengers pack meals for the journey, sir, and, well, we are very hungry." Inwardly I groaned. How could anyone resist those innocent voices? I had a soft heart for children, and I recognized the city was not accommodating for the poorer folks. These boys were just unfortunate victims of the power-hungry council. I quickly made a decision. Hopefully, I would come up with a satisfying lie to explain why yet again I lost criminals on a case. "Are you two willing to work for food?" I asked them sternly. "Yes, sir, but no one wants to hire us anymore. Everyone is afraid of the new deportation rules and such." "Well, I know a place that could use your help, but you have to promise me to not come back to the station anymore. Am I clear?" The boys gulped and looked at each other before nodding in agreement. I retracted my magic lasso and the boys let out a relieved sigh. "Great. Go to Mr. Coleman in the crafts quarter. He needs errand boys. From the square with the well, head right. Take the narrowest street you see, and when you pass the cobbler on your right, you're almost there. Mr. Coleman's workshop will be just ahead." The boys mumbled a quick thank you and scurried away, leaving me behind, wondering whether my efforts would ever make a real impact on the corruption in the city. It was on my way back that I got the odd feeling of being followed. The hairs on my neck stood on end, however, I couldn't spot anyone. I always took a shortcut from the station back home. However, now I started to regret my choice. These back alleys were a perfect place to get ambushed, and now that the sun was almost behind the horizon, it felt even more ominous. Long shadows fell down the winded alley. I was too far in now to go back. How could I be this stupid? I picked up my pace, my footsteps echoing awfully loud against the buildings that lined the alley. I normally wasn't that concerned, seeing as I was a capable wizard. However, an unseen enemy could still pose a serious threat. From the corner of my eyes, I could see a black form rushing past me on the rooftops, and the faint sound of falling pebbles echoed through the air. I stopped and scanned the ever-darkening buildings. I listened intently for any sound that might reveal the invisible stalker, but all I heard was my own breathing and the soft breeze. It was quiet in the alley, too quiet. Maybe it was time for me to make a swift exit. Just as I gathered a ball of energy in my hand to open a magical portal, I got knocked over by something dark and massive. Air escaped my lungs in a sharp gasp as I collided with the cobblestones. The grit bit into the palms of my hands, my knees scraped painfully on the rough ground, and my energy evaporated before I could summon the portal. No, this couldn't be happening. With all my might, I tried to hold on to my power, but it was to no avail. Panic struck my heart as I realized there was no time to gather enough energy. Hearing a low growl behind me, I quickly turned around and scrambled backwards. Before I knew what was happening, a beastly form sprang forward and pinned me to the ground. I recognized the werewolf from last night. It still wore the same lumberjack shirt. In its beastly strength, he almost ripped my arms off, and pain seared through my shoulders. His face close to mine, he growled, revealing a row of sharp yellow teeth. In reflex, I gripped his hairy arms as I tried to push him off me. However, who could match a werewolf's strength? Certainly not me. His strong odor almost took my breath as he let out a beastly snarl. "I will rip you apart, sorcerer!" Foul-smelling saliva splattered on my face as he emphasized every word. "I will enjoy pulling your entrails out before I kill you!" My strength was no match for him. However, I could muster a small jolt of energy, enough to burn his arms and give me a split second to escape his grip. The werewolf let out a yelp of pain, and the smell of burnt hair reached my nose. I had burned myself too in the process, but desperate situations called for desperate measures. I managed to get up from the ground, but before I could put any distance between me and the enraged werewolf, he shoved me up against the wall, slowly pushing me up with his claw around my neck, squeezing the life out of me. My heart raced and I broke into a sweat. This certainly looked like it was the end of me. The face of my attacker was so close I could count the whiskers on his enraged snout. "You made the wrong choice yesterday, sorcerer. You should have walked away," he snarled. "Now you will pay with your life, and that bitch will be mine." Desperately, I tried to pry his claws away from my throat as he lifted me off the ground. I felt my throat constrict, leaving no room to breathe. The lack of oxygen made it difficult to gather my energy to defend myself. The mention of Jane made my stomach churn. He needed to stay away from her. I tried the same magic on him as yesterday, but he was too enraged for it to work. My spell just deflected off him like it was nothing. "Oh, no you don't, pathetic wizard. You won't compel me so easily now," the beast snarled. "Just so you know, I will kill that bitch just as slow. Serves her right for being a wild witch." Somehow, my air-depleted brain still registered that piece of information. So she was a wild witch, and somehow this werewolf knew about it. He seemed to like the horrified look on my face, for he left me a few more minutes to live and listen to his violent fantasies. Or I might have a little fun with her and then hand her over to the council. How do you like that, wizard? Kill her or let her get deported to a work camp? Okay, he definitely knew about her status, and with the new rules that the council had signed, this meant he could get a reward for turning her in. It all started to make sense now. With renewed vigor, I struggled against his grip, but he proceeded to choke me, and the world slowly blackened around me. If only I could concentrate for one moment, I might be able to cast a spell. In the distance, I heard hurried footsteps, and then a loud thud echoed between the buildings. "Ah, what the hell!" the werewolf exclaimed, as he suddenly released my neck. Wasting no time, I uttered a paralyzing spell, making the signs with my right hand. Purple sparks left my fingertips, and the energy effectively enveloped the werewolf, who was now immobilized. I sank to the ground, coughing and choking, holding my bruised neck. "Mason!" A familiar voice called out to me, and hurried footsteps got closer. "Mason, are you okay?" Jane asked, worried. I tried to answer her, but I could only let out a burst of coughs. She put a hand on my shoulder, and I could feel a wave of warmth and energy coming from her. Finally, I was able to stand up, and I brushed off my clothes. Still holding my neck, I looked at her. "Jane? What are you doing here?" I searched her worried face for answers as I slowly regained my senses. "Yeah, I was on my way to the blinking star when I heard the noise, and then I saw that werewolf holding you. Luckily, my throw is good." She motioned at the large rock that lay next to the werewolf. She must have thrown it at his head. I blinked at her. "Thank you, Jane, you just saved my life." I shook my head. I wasn't in the best shape yet. "Let us get out of here. I will walk with you to the blinking star. This is no neighborhood for a woman to walk alone." Jane harumphed. "Well, unfortunately, this is the neighborhood I live in." She looked puzzled at the werewolf, who lay still on the ground, yet his eyes were still open. "Wow, I must have hit him really hard with that stone." I guided her to the end of the alley. The sooner we were out of there, the better. I let her words sink in as we walked briskly through the streets. Did she live here? She must struggle to make ends meet to live in such a dangerous part of the city. "You don't live here alone, do you?" I asked, abhorred. That would be so wrong. Jane scoffed. "You are asking an awful lot of questions for someone who almost died."